Wow, what an amazing song. Come thou fount of every blessing. Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to one of the most exciting gospel shows that speaks to your life. I'm going to get right to my special guest today. Had an opportunity of visiting the Mount Carmel Baptist Church on Sunday and had an opportunity to hear this wonderful man of God with vision and wisdom and so much energy. I want to welcome the Reverend Dr. Donald D. Moore, who is the ninth pastor now of the Mount Carmel Baptist Church in Philadelphia, located at 5732 Ray Street, right here in the great city of Philadelphia. Good morning to you, Dr. Moore. How you doing?
Good morning, Simone Malone, the feel-good radio man. I am doing well. How about yourself?
I'm feeling wonderful now that I have you on the line, man. I just want to take this time first to congratulate you for who you are and congratulate you, which we're going to talk about, of completing your doctorate. That has been some time. You have put some sweat into it. You had your church family, your wife, and everybody praying for you, and you have completed your dissertation last week. Is that correct?
That is correct. I completed my dissertation defense on last Wednesday from Wilmington University in Newcastle, Delaware. Wilmington, Delaware, Newcastle is the graduate center where I attended. And my doctorate is in organizational leadership. So I am excited to be completed with that. And you are correct. The love and support of my wife, first and foremost, and my Mount Carmel church family was very helpful and needed during these last several months.
Well, you definitely deserve praise and recognition, because that is certainly a serious commitment for what you have done. And certainly God has carried you down the path to do this. But before I even get into the meat of this conversation, this exclusive interview, I just want people to know you got all the great titles. You've done some great professional things. I want people to know, who in the world, this guy from Wilmington, North Carolina, who is, without the title, Donald D. Moore?
I always refer to myself as a country boy from North Carolina. I'm very proud, first, to always state that I am from Wilmington, North Carolina.
Yes.
That is an ongoing joke, especially for some of the members at Mount Carmel, because I do love my state, a lot, because you are who you are, and you are, a combination of all your experiences, and my experiences all started in North Carolina. And I'm just a laid-back, simple, no-frills type of person.
Right.
I like nice things, but I'm very simplistic at the same time.
Right. That's awesome. Well, let's talk about, how did you get into the field? What encouraged you to get into the field of speech language pathology? That is a really interesting subject matter. Let's talk about that first, because I want people to understand your journey here. Let's talk about that.
Well, I attended Fayetteville State University, and I had the pleasure of having as an advisor, undergraduate advisor, Dr. Evelyn Burrows, who was a clinical speech pathologist as well. And your freshman year, you really don't have an idea of what you really want to do. I mean, some people go off to college and they have it all laid out, and as far as what the next plans are. However, it didn't go that way for me. So my undergraduate advisor, Dr. Burrows, she began asking questions. Well, what do you want to do? What do you like doing? I knew I liked healthcare. I knew I liked working with people. I knew I wanted to work with people. And so she presented this as an option. And I had even thought about majoring in biology to go to medical school. But then when I researched it, it wasn't necessarily the life that I was necessarily aiming to strive for. Now, I want to be clear that I did that not to go to seminary right out of undergraduate school. So kind of trying to put things off as long as I could. And I did well as a speech pathologist. I went on to graduate school at North Carolina Central, and I wrote my thesis out of the dental school of Chapel Hill. So my area of clinical expertise as a speech pathologist is in the area of voice and swallowing disorders in an adult population. So I've only worked in hospitals and rehab centers and subacute rehab centers, specializing in voice and dysphagia or swallowing disorders, and video fluoroscopy, working real close with radiologists, pulmonologists, ENTs, and GI docs over the past 21 years.
Wow. Sounds like it was an interesting ride for you, and it was a very successful career for you, but God had another thing for you. Am I right about it?
Oh, that is true. That's definitely true. I originally had sought out to complete a PhD in voice and swallowing disorders, And God clearly said, listen, I've granted you all this time.
Right.
I've given you all the things that you wanted to do. When are you going to do what I've called you to do?
Wow.
So I put the PhD in voice and swallowing disorders off, and I went back and got a second master's of divinity from Palmer Theological Seminary right here in Philadelphia.
Okay. So what diverted you to come from Wilmington, North Carolina, to drive on up to 95 and come on up to Philadelphia? What inspired you to come to Philly?
I moved here after graduate school.
Okay.
The field of speech pathology affords a lot of flexibility.
Right.
And the demand was so great. So I moved here and, pursued other work interests.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've been here since 1996 in the New Jersey, Philadelphia area.
Right.
And so I've been here.
Right.
And during this time, I was fortunate enough, to be licensed both on the PA side and the New Jersey side.
Yeah.
And upon my arrival here, I joined Kane Avenue Baptist Church, where I met my dear friend, brother, pastor, mentor, who's now, unfortunately, the late Dr. Britt Armando Stargell.
Right.
He was a pastor at Kane Avenue Baptist Church. And that's where I really began to develop and grow, and not only in ministry, but I will be honest, I tried, again, not to go into ministry.
Right.
And I went, I said, okay, I'll be a deacon. That's it. That's my way out. That's my way out.
Right.
And it was a good thing, because not knowing back in 2003 when I was going through my ordination to be a deacon that God would have other plans for me down the road, I was able to see other aspects of church leadership and ministry from the perspective and from the vantage point as a deacon. And as a young deacon, it allowed me to see what the needs are, not only of the church, but of the members and the community. So I'm thankful for all the experiences I had leading up to, getting me down the road and on the road to become the ninth pastor at Mount Carmel Baptist Church.
Absolutely. As I was looking over information about you, I really saw that you were quite involved at Kane Avenue Baptist Church, and God prepared you for this place where you are now. I truly believe that. I know the people of Mount Carmel Baptist Church feel the same way, and you learned so much there as I was reading information about you. So being a deacon and then working under that fine pastor, and then he pushed you and said, listen, when the Lord told you, it's time for you to move on. Let's talk about that now. The Lord pushed you and the Lord spoke to you. And how did you come about the networking where God led you to the Mount Carmel Baptist Church? People need to understand that. Go ahead.
Well, in 2008, while a student at Palmer Seminary, you have to complete 2 TFEs, what we call them, the Theological Field Education Placements.
Right. And
in that, you have the opportunity to go out and essentially you're a student intern for 1 year. And they encourage you to go out away from your church. So my first year, I actually completed at Kane Avenue Baptist Church. And so my second year, I was looking at other churches in Philadelphia, and my pastor said, well, I think you'll be better off going to Mount Carmel with Pastor Albert F. Campbell, Dr. Campbell.
Wow.
And I said, well, why do you want me to go there?
Certainly.
He said, because it's simple. He can teach you what my pastor didn't know yet.
Wow.
And he said he's going to give you a vantage point of pastoring for someone from a perspective of 40 plus years that he didn't know.
Right.
And so I called Pastor Campbell, I left a message, and we went and had an interview. And the rest is pretty much history, because out of that came the relationship not only between myself and Pastor Campbell, but myself and quite a few members of Mount Carmel Baptist Church. And again, at the time, this was the completion of an academic requirement, but I knew that I had made some lifelong friendships and connections at that time that have since proven to be extremely helpful to me, not only as the pastor, but just as an individual.
Right.
And so it all began in 2008. After that, I maintained my relationship with Pastor Campbell because he is near and dear to me. You can ask anyone how I feel about my predecessor. I look at him as a grandfather in ministry, as a mentor, as a friend, and I call him my pastor because he truly is. So in 2013, as Pastor Campbell was preparing to retire, opportunity presented itself for me to become the preacher in residence. And that was a new model for the Baptist Church, and especially a new model for Mount Carmel. And Mount Carmel, they were flexible. You know, they wanted to see how would this look, how would this work. And again, it was new, it was different, and we weren't sure at the time how it was going to work.
Right.
And what I did was I preached 7:30 service, and we had an hour power. So the service was from 7:30 to 8:30 every Sunday for that year. And during that time, it was emotionally interesting, spiritually enlightening, because as the church began to go through its search process, you know, I had to sit there and listen to the church give its updates on their pulpit search committee.
Wow.
Which while I'm sitting there, I'm saying, you know, this is kind of awkward, because now I have to get up and preach it, and I'm listening to the updates, because the church still went through its process.
Yes.
The church still continued with its process as normal, that the pulpit search committee laid out, and as God would have it, the church voted in September of 2014 and called me as its ninth pastor, and I can truly say that on September 27th, 2014, when the church voted, that I truly inherited the best church this side of heaven.
I believe it.
And I say that every Sunday.
Yes.
I don't say we're not the biggest.
Right.
We're not the richest. But I do humbly and authentically believe that we are the best church this side of heaven, because of the membership that we have, the leadership, the history of the church. Mount Carmel has a rich, vibrant history.
Yes, right.
A history that I count it an honor to succeed and begin to write the next chapter.
Right.
And we've done a lot of good things together as a church family. Mount Carmel has been patient with me.
Yes.
As I'm growing and as I'm learning, and I'm still learning.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a little bit more settled now.
Okay.
But I am still learning, and the membership collectively has been more than welcoming, more than patient, and you know, I don't always make. People would think, "Oh, you get it all right." No, I've made some mistakes,
right.
and I'm clear.
Yes.
I'll say, you know, that wasn't the best thing for me to do.
Right.
So we'll learn from it, and let's move on. And it's been a pleasure to have my wife, you know, along this journey. She's been a sounding board. She's been a voice of reason for me.
Yes.
And I entered this saying, you know, as long as I know that I have her support.
That's right.
As long as I know that I can look and I can see her, at the end of the day, I know that I'll be okay.
Wonderful.
And I'm thankful to God for that. And I'm thankful for the way that Mount Carmel has embraced her, because, you know, Mount Carmel has a lot of moving parts, and Mount Carmel has a lot of huge personalities,
right.
which is a good thing. It's a great thing. And the way that they've embraced my wife has been, you know, refreshing and rewarding to me at the same time.
Good. We thank God for your wife. I had an opportunity of really talking with her on Sunday, sitting next to her. You guys treated me so well there. So let's talk. Let's switch in the book real quick. I know you have a meeting at 10 a.m., and I appreciate this time, because people, this is your season and this is your assignment that God has given you. Let's talk now about your vision. What is your vision with the energy that you have for the Mount Carmel Baptist Church?
Well, my vision is very, very simple. It's simple in the sense that the vision is for the church and community.
Okay.
There has to be a clear symbiotic relationship between church and community.
Right.
Now, within that, how does that look? I feel that the church has been kept in West Philadelphia for such a time as this to meet the community needs, the church's needs, but while addressing spiritual, religious, economic, social, health. Health is a real big part of my vision for the church and community.
Yes.
Because we have to take care of ourselves. We have to move beyond the cliches of the Black Baptist Church as far as you know, some of our health concerns and dietary concerns, and all of that comes together. So, you know, how do we remain a religious citadel, a spiritual lighthouse in the community, while also saying, you can do better, because you have to do better economically, but not just assume that everyone knows what they need to do better economically.
Right.
And how does that really align with the church's vision, the church's mission, again, for the members and the community? So that's it in a nutshell. And it's going to take work.
Yeah.
It's going to take work because, again, the church has to get used to me, and as I continue to become the pastor.
Yeah.
Pastor Campbell said it so eloquently. You're called, the church votes, but you become pastor.
Right.
And as I become the pastor, and I feel that I've become the pastor in many regards, but still a lot more ahead of me. But how does this look with someone who thinks differently or has a little bit more energy differently?
Right.
And the church has been, I'm grateful, because at no point has it been burdened or cast upon me that I have to be Pastor Campbell.
Right.
In fact, the church, as I laid out my vision last year at the beginning of in January, it was, they weren't expecting that. They're saying, listen, we want you to be the best you that you can be. Be the best
Exactly.
Donald Moore that you can be.
Yes.
As we do this together. So the vision is definitely for the church and community.
Right.
And if you can ask any of the members when I have a meeting, it's always church and community and church. So that's where I believe that God has directed me.
Yes.
And has kept Mount Carmel right where it is. Yeah. As the city experiences a growth and a rebirth in certain sections of the city.
Uh-huh.
Mount Carmel is positioned right where it needs to be for such a time as this, to make the impact in the lives of those individuals who need it the most.
Awesome. Listen, I want to take this moment, and then I'm going to let you invite people to come and hear you, because truly I witnessed your message, which was very touching on Sunday. I experienced and I received an email for something that was very critical that happened in America, as you know, in Charleston, South Carolina. And you kind of like spearheaded the idea of getting more churches involved about, and I want you to talk more in detail about it, about the importance, I guess, of security, or being careful and mindful of how the enemy can come into the church and cause major issues like we experienced in Charleston, South Carolina. Can you talk a little bit about that? I commend you. You have been the first pastor that I know that have had the news coverage of this, sharing your vision, sharing your ideas about this. Can you speak to us, Dr. Moore, about that?
Well, yes, we held an active shooter in service meeting drill. We were able to obtain the resources of Homeland Security, who came in and facilitated it. Uh-huh. One of our members and trustees, Alice Thomas, when the original shooting took place in South Carolina, she approached me and indicated that her inspector thought it might be a good idea for us to at least have some conversation. Uh-huh. And out of her taking the lead to initiate that conversation, came what culminated on a couple of weeks ago with the active shooter in service. Okay. Because it's unfortunate that we have to discuss matters such as safety from an active shooter. But the truth of the matter is, that's the time that we live in. We are currently living in a time where, whether the individual suffer from mental illness or whatever precipitates one from carrying out such a heinous act, the fact remains that as a church, we need to be prepared.
That's right.
Mount Carmel is not a small building. It's not a mega church.
Right.
I want to be clear. But it's not a small edifice. And we have a lot of nooks and crannies, and it has an intricate labyrinth as far as our space is concerned. So how do we evaluate that space for safety?
Right.
And the gentleman who facilitated, he came in and he looked at some of our current security practices and gave us some insight as to how we can improve. Awesome. He commended us on things that we already had in place. and the church is secure. But again, we wanted to prepare for the worst.
That's right.
And prayerfully, we will never have to carry out any of the tips and insight that we gain from that. But in the event that it does happen, I think we should position ourselves to reduce tragedy as best possible.
Awesome. And I hope that other pastors that are listening and members of churches, they grab a hold of this, because I did see the video of the media coverage with that, and you did a wonderful job in all of those involved. And we thank you. We thank you because God is certainly going to keep you protected, because you got a mighty work ahead of you. And I believe that that church is going to continue to grow, and you're going to attract so many people with your energy and inspiration. That's going to be a blessing. And I'm going to come back and visit too. You don't have to worry about that. I want you to be the pastor of the airways real quick, because I know you got to run. I want you to share a great word of inspiration real quick to the listening audience and viewers as we get ready to go into, we are now, I'm not going to say we're getting ready, we are here in the season of thanks and getting ready to celebrate our birth of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Pastor, what can you share as the pastor of the airways right now?
Well, I would share with those that are, this season of Thanksgiving should be a season of thanks and giving. Thankful for all that God has done for us, but also knowing that we are blessed to be a blessing.
Yes.
So in that, our lives should be both thanks and giving, because there are still individuals who are less fortunate. There are those who are not able to do for themselves, as others may be in a different position. So to make sure that we're giving as well. And with that said, be thankful with a grateful heart, but also give with a grateful heart at the same time.
Great words. So go ahead and invite people to come out to your place of worship, the historic Mount Carmel Baptist Church in Philadelphia.
Well, I tell people we are open on Sunday. We have our Sunday school convenes at 8:30 a.m. and we have Sunday school classes for all ages, from from ages 3 and up to adult, and we meet the needs of a multi-generational church. Our worship service begins at 10 a.m., and in January we will begin with our praise and worship ministry. So service will actually begin more at like 9:45 with praise and worship, which then will lead right into the spirit of worship, which is at 10 a.m. We are always looking forward to having members, and after you get tired of visiting, just come on and join us, because I cannot think of any other church that you should come join with other than Mount Carmel Baptist Church at 5732 Race Street
in Philadelphia. Well, the Reverend Dr. Donald D. Moore, we thank you so much. Did you enjoy being on the show today?
I enjoyed it immensely, and I'm looking forward to the continued relationship that you and I are developing, and any way that I can be of assistance to you, as well as you can be assistance to myself and the church. I'm definitely looking forward to it. So thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you very much, man. Happy Thanksgiving Day to you, and we're going to talk to you real soon. We love you, brother.
All right, love you back. Thank you very much.
Okay, bye-bye.